Greetings, welcome back to PinkOddBird. As you can see, we have a lot to get through here today, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today we are going to get started with the new spring collection, and I've been working on this for a little while. And these books, I really wanted them to mostly be functional, writable books, if that makes sense. So more like journals or things like that that you can actually use and write in, as opposed to like more of the art books that I've been doing recently in like the dark release. So I will be having more of those kinds of books coming up, but I did want to get a little collection out like this just to create a little bit of a different range in what I have available. So we're going to get through this quickly because, like I said, we have a lot to go through. So I'm going to get started. So first we have these little mini garden journal booklets, I guess, that I made. And I have a video up showing you how I made these using the seed packets from my Etsy shop. So if you wanted to make some of these, you totally can. And I really just used like a bunch of papers that I've kind of been having stored away for a while, and some of my scraps as well. But as you can see, these are just really simple little mini booklet journals that you can write in, you can collage in, you can put stickers in, you can just do notes or quotes or anything like that that you want to add in these little books. They're all pretty similar. They all have like different little snippets of paper in them, a little tag in the center. And these are just really cute, I think, especially if you want to use it like as an on-the-go little book. There's a tuck spot. I think these are really perfect for that because, like, say you got a little receipt. Maybe you want to glue your receipt in here over like a book page or something like that. Like write a little note or something. So I think these are really cute, really fun little booklets. Lots of different kinds of papers, a little bit of fabric there. There's vintage papers, matte paper, coffee stain paper, wrapping paper, and there's my stamp. So I won't flip through each one of these, but they're all basically really similar, and they all are wrapped with vintage seam binding. I'm really trying to start using up some of these things that I have a whole bunch of. So using that seam binding. And there's 8 of these. So I'm going to set these off to the side. I am calling this collection a spring / floral garden collection because I guess you have either a spring garden or maybe a spring like vegetable garden, floral vegetables, whatever it is that you like to plant and grow. Or maybe you just like the theme. And I wanted to make a couple of floral books. There was actually one other one. I have already sent one of them out to my friend for her birthday, but I'm going to flip through these 2 here quickly. So these are just kind of floral themed. All of the digital kits that I've used in these 2 florals come from Calico Collage. I'll link to Norella's shop in the description box below. So this is just a fabric covered book. I did make book cloth of this fabric, which means I did have to iron it. However, I don't know, the wrinkles wouldn't really come out of this fabric at all. I tried, steaming it beforehand, and then once I put turned it into book cloth, it still wouldn't come out. So it has that little bit of character there. And then on the spine, there are the bands here, as you can see. And then here's what the back looks like. I love it. It's super pretty fabric. And I think it's a 2 3/4 inch spine, but as you can see, this book has so much room to grow. It's a hollow back, so it will lay flat when you start getting into using it. And there are 5 signatures on this one. Here is what the profile view looks like. There's a couple of little pretty charms on here and lots of pretty frilly dillies in there. And like I said, there's plenty of room for this book to grow. So I'm gonna start flipping through here quickly. There's some ephemera here that came from your creative studio. I'll link to Amanda as well in the description box below. So I'm just gonna flip through quickly. I believe the kit that I used in this one is Serendipity, I want to say. So a little tuck spot there, a little mini envelope. There's some tabs. These little book pages are so cute, but I got these at a sale a long time ago, but they're really pretty images on here. I did a lot of paper dyeing like I like to do in a lot of my books that are, you know, really colorful and stuff. There's lots of tuck spots in the corners, so wherever you see like something in the corner, whether there's something in it or not, it's usually a tuck spot. There's grid paper in here, so if you want to plot out your flower garden, you can do that. There's gardening book pages. They all have a piece of this stationery here that I just folded up like an envelope. And you can collage. If some people might not be sure what to do with pages like this, you can collage over these. You can still write over these. Like, it'll show just fine if you use like a black pen or marker. A little tuck spot down here. Another mini envelope. There's a tuck spot down here. So yeah, I really was inspired to make these all because of my friend. Like, I really wanted her to have like an option of a new book that she can use. She really likes to garden, so these were really inspired by her. And the original book that I did called Serendipity, which was an old design team project that I did for Calico Collage. My machine was messing up. It messed up twice. Once in this book and one in the other book that I already sent out. But, you know, it's just character. It just adds character. Some more mask fabric trim that I have. Just scraps of. Some really pretty book pages. This is old calligraphy paper. There's a little tuck spot. Another book page here. This one says Song of the Bunnies and Bear and the Butterfly. So really lots of space to make this your own, but there's still lots of like really pretty like embellishments in here, decorating to use as a base in your book. There's my stamp in a little pocket here in the back. So that is this one. So I guess we'll call this one Pink Floral. That's what we'll call it. So here's the next one. This one is a little bit smaller, and this one I made out of a repurposed book cover. So again, we have the vintage seam binding and this pretty applique that I've put here on the front cover. It's an exposed binding, so I think it's really pretty against the pink floral design there, and then you've got the really pretty pink flower fabric in the background. So maybe we'll call this one Pink Applique. That's what we'll call it. So this book, in contrast to this one, I just want to show you the difference, where this book has been made to grow, right? So you can see this book is really meant to be used and to expand, and you've got tons of space to do that with. Where this book is really meant for somebody who is really just like a writer. Like, you might have a little bit of leeway with what you can add into here, but it's really meant for a writer. So if you really just like to write, doesn't matter if you like to journal or just like write quotes or whatever it is that you like to write, then this is the kind of book that I would make for that purpose. Just a little variety of things that came in the Your Creative Studio subscription box that I showed here on my channel. So I'm just going to flip through quickly again, and I believe the kit that I used for this one is, it's either Exquisite Dreamer, or it's Serendipity, or maybe a mixture of the both. So lots of pretty staining and other little elements. And these do have the planner pages in them, so you can actually use this to plan a little bit if you have like a little lightweight planning that you want to do. Or like if you're tracking your garden in here, maybe you want to write something about the day of the week about your garden. So that's why I added those in. There's a pocket there. There's the stationery. Yeah, I want to say this is Serendipity, the kit, but I did see a couple of pieces of the Exquisite planner, or the Exquisite Dreamer in here. This paper is really pretty. It's like it's got really small flecks of gold, sparkly stuff in there. This is a tuck spot also. This is a big belly band, so it goes straight across. These green book pages are gardening book pages as well. Calendar pages are really neat. These are gardening book pages as well. So here's the page for this one. And on this side, some really pretty, really pretty illustrations. Lots of different paper styles and paper weights as well. The little book page. Little donkey, close your eyes. Little tag in there. It's a tuck spot. And that's a tuck spot. Yeah, I definitely combined Exquisite, Dreamer, and Serendipity. This one I just sewed it onto, or glued it onto the page. There's my stamp, and you have another pocket here in the back. So that is the pink applique book. Next, I have the little garden traveler's notebooks. These are both fabric covered books, 8 1/4 by 4 1/4. They're exactly the same, so I'm only going to flip through one. So again, we have the vintage seam binding, and on the side there are a few little textiles here. There's a little mushroom charm that you can see there, and then just another little green and red charm just to kind of match with the fabric here on the front. And again, these are, you know, nice and chunky notebooks, but I didn't want to overdo them, and I left the fabric or the covers plain. That's actually something that you will notice with every one of these books. I've left the covers plain, and well, except for this one, but there's a reason. And I've really just left all of these covers plain just because sometimes less is more, and especially when you have these really pretty fabrics, it's nice to just enjoy the fabric sometimes. So I just left those nice and plain. So I'm going to flip through this one here, and they're exactly the same like I said. So I'm just going to go through. There's a couple little pieces of ephemera here, and this is Calico Collage's Garden Digital Kit, which I will also link. So we have a little tag down here, and there's a little garden tag, garden water jug tag. And I left these little pockets open, and that is because I wanted them to be able to fit, you know, like these little wider elements. So if you don't want that pocket to be open, you can always glue them closed, but I like the way that that looks. So I made a garden book once before, and I did this technique where I used these little elements. These are her journaling cards that come with this kit, and I turned them into magnets. Oh, and I backed them with eco-dyed fabric that my buddy Shelby gave me. So really pretty eco-dyed fabric on the back, but they are magnets, so they become like grabbers. So basically the way that I did it was I have this paper, and then say we have this little recipe card in here. So the little magnets that I've created, basically they just hold that little recipe card in place. So you can see if I pull it out, there's a little resistance. So it's a nice little alternate way to do like a paper clip. So these were tucked in behind. So there's a couple more little tags here, and I just, the magnets are really strong, so they can, you know, withstand holding. You know, there's a few layers here between the two magnets. So like I said, I did want to leave space for you to be able to write. I did do staining in these books as well. A little bit of stitching detail. Gardening book pages also. And there's the stationery. And just because they are garden themed doesn't mean they have to be used about something that's related to gardening. I mean, if you just like this, like I said, I love this, and I don't garden at all. But I love it, and so, you know, I would totally use this for writing about really just anything. So here we have a little book page. You can see the little bunny bottom there. Nibble, 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 and a pretty little image of some plants there. And then inside I have the little elements from your creative studio that you get to use inside of the book as you go. So I just folded those in there and tucked it all in. Pretty gardening book pages. All of these little pages like this have some kind of, I think they came from a book. So they all have like a little writing on the back, a little poem, some textiles. This goes like this. And like I said, I kept the textiles to a minimum because I wanted, you know, this to be pretty functional. So here we have a little envelope, and then I just attached these four little journaling cards, so you have something cool to write on in there. This is a little card on making compost. Pretty helpful if you do have a garden. So here I have a little paper clip up at the top, and it has a little acorn on it. And this is just a long little piece that comes with the kit, but I thought it would make a really nice big journaling spot. And I've just kind of tucked this over this little half page here, and then I used the paper clip to hold it, and then underneath it was just another little recipe card from this side. So here is the little book page for this book. so pretty. And here's this side, a bunch of flourishes. So these are little circular pieces that come in the kit, and I put them as a tuck spot in this little piece here. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. But my idea was they could be like the little seeds that you're planting. But you can write on the back of these if you want to, or you can move them around and maybe make them like page tabs or whatever you want to do. But that's the way I have them in here. I just can't get enough of these like vintage garden images. So here's another one of those little magnet thingy dingies. So it's holding a recipe card on this side and nothing on this side. So there's another quote, and there's a big tag in here. Again, the pockets are open, so you can use those to fit wider things in. Another tag. Couple more in this little pocket. There's a little wheelbarrow back here, and there's my stamp. So that is the little garden vegetable book. So there are 2 of these, and I guess I'll just call them garden vegetable books, and I will have those in the shop as well. And lastly, I have these last 2 sunflower books that I'll probably really ever make, at least for a long time. These are in my retired series on my Instagram stories. I have a highlighted section where you can see which books are retired. These are retired, and they have been for a while, but they're already both spoken for because they were asked of me a long time ago. So these ladies have been really patient while I, got around to making these. So these are both spoken for, and like I said, they're the last ones that I'll be making, at least for the foreseeable future. So I'm just going to flip through one quickly. So as you can see here, just some really pretty fabric, and I really love the little bees. I'm really terrified of bees in real life, but they're really pretty in this fabric. And again, we have the spine binding. And I left like I said, the fabric plain just because it's really pretty to enjoy this, but they're both crafty ladies, so if they want to, they can add something to the front. Actually, I considered adding this image to the front, but I just couldn't get myself to come around to covering up the fabric, even though it does go all the way around the book. But so these are mostly similar. I think I changed the order of the signatures a little bit. So either way, when you first open the book, you can see the word sunflower somewhere, on the page. So the signatures are in a different order, but they're similar other than that. So there's a little Ex Libris down here in the little tuck spot, and then you just saw this big journaling card. Some of these things my buddy Kelsey sent to me, and they really just kind of matched with the colors. So I was like, oh, this is perfect, but it still is totally usable stuff. Meals this week, I thought that was really cute, but the green was perfect, that Kelly green. I use Calico Collage's Sunny Mornings for this, so you know what to look for when you go into the shop. Different kinds of paper that I've used in here. Some of them are vintage, like this is like a really lightweight grid paper. It's an engineer paper, I want to say. Some trimmings. I have made these little circles a tuck spot, so it's a little bit kind of reverse of what I did in the garden books. Some handmade paper. So this paper is coffee stained paper, but if you follow me on Instagram, I do post a lot of like the progress of what I'm working on. So you can also get a good idea of what I'm doing over on my Instagram. If you don't follow me, I'll link that down below. But this is just some pretty coffee stained paper, and what I did was I used a sunflower napkin that I had, and the sunflower print was obviously bold on the very top layer of the print and quite faded on the second layer, and then the third layer was plain white. So what I did was use the second layer, and so you have this really neat feeling paper that you can still write on, and it's so cool that it was so thin that you can still see the design, but you can also still see the lines on the paper, which I think was just super cool. It's like creating your own stationery. I just added these greeting cards. There's a different one in each, but I thought that you could use these if you wanted to, but I really just think the colors and, you know, the vibe of the cards really fit well with the theme. So another postcard there, and then this is a little floating pocket. So here's the back, and then I have just a little jar in there, and then this is a little tuck spot. So again, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I was painting, and I've actually painted this sunflower. It goes across the whole bottom portion of the page, but this is a sunflower that I just painted, and thanks to my buddies Priscilla and Janine for their tips and advice. I'm not really a painter or like a person who draws, but they gave me some great tips, and so this is what I was able to come up with. So since they were sharing their advice with me, I decided to scan this and share this with you all as a freebie. So in the description box, I will link to my website where you can find a printable of this that you can use in your own journals. It's a little cottage stamp. So I did some alcohol inking in this book, and with that, of course, I was using a napkin to sop up the excess ink. So with those napkins, what I did was I decoupaged them onto coffee stained paper and made these little like faux envelopes with them. And I just used one of Mrs. Cog's. Actually, I did use Mrs. Cog's Sunflower Digital in these books as well. So this is a Mrs. Cog's image, but I think this is so cool because it has all the colors that I was using. You'll see later in this book of what I was doing. But I think the coolest thing about this, and this is probably one of my favorite things of all, is the pigment on the napkin was so strong that it actually, if you like see here, if I flip it over, that exact pigment reflects on the underbelly here. So this pigment is here, right? So it kind of created its own like I am one piece of paper little moment. Because, you know, what's on this side is reflected on this side, but I think it just gives like a really cool look to this paper that you can journal on, and you didn't really have to do anything to the coffee stained paper. And that coffee stained paper actually came from GT Design, so thank you, Renee. I really love the effect that I was able to get with that. Some more pretty little greeting card here and a little tag. So another little coffee stained paper envelope. Do your chores. This was another one of those elements that just matched with it, so I popped it in here. So there's that main version of the napkin there. So here is the tracing paper with what I was doing with all that alcohol ink. What I did was this was just a black and white image here, and you can't really tell on the camera, but I did color the sunflower with alcohol inks, so like yellows and greens and browns, and then I used blue alcohol ink around the border just to give it a pop of color, and plus because blue is kind of like a color that's used in the book and in the kit. And then on the back side I wrote a poem, a sunflower poem by Jacqueline M. Brown, which is a really lovely poem. So I just love the way that turned out. And the green alcohol ink here is actually like a shimmer, so I think it's super pretty. The little coloring book pages that I added in these books, I tried to pick some that looked sort of sunflower-like, so I think those would be fun to color. This is a vintage book plate. So here on this paper, I think Crafty Irina sent me this, and I love it because it's like a really thin textured paper. But what I did was I used my distress crayons to kind of roughly draw out a sunflower, and so I wasn't sure how that was going to look, but I do love it. It's really like flush into the page, and you can write over this, and I think you'd get a really neat effect with that. So we have a little Edith Holden book page here, and then this is one of these little self-contained. You write in here, and then you put your stamp and mail it out. So there's another coloring page. I stamped on this little canvas just to give it like a little nice little image on there, and I like the way that ends up looking. This is one of Crafty Sabby's envelopes that I showed you in one of the books I made recently. She has a tutorial on how you can make these, but Kelsey sent me these bags that were amazing, and the bags feel like, I don't know, they feel so good. But I did a little modification. I just created this little like belly band instead of cutting it into the actual envelope, and the reason why I did that is because I wanted to keep it's a paper bag obviously, so I wanted to use this little piece as a tuck spot. So that's the only reason why I didn't cut this and tuck it into the actual envelope. So as you can see, it's just a coffee stained paper in here for some more writing space. And then just behind that we've got a little book page. This is a little grasshopper, really pretty. There's a little tag that I made. Here is a little file folder that comes with the kit, and then there's the fabric tag that I made using up some scraps. So a tuck spot here, and I think this is a tuck spot here as well as right here. These are Ideals magazine pages, but I thought they were kind of pretty to put in here. They fit with the colors. It's a tuck spot here. And there's a pocket in the back of the book. So that's it. So these are all of the books for the current collection, and I hope that you guys all have enjoyed watching this. I will have all of these up in my Etsy shop, so they will be there until they're not. And I hope you all have enjoyed this spring floral garden collection. And I do have some fun ideas that I want to do coming up for some other like idea topics and themes or whatever, so I'm definitely excited to come back and share those and get those going as well. But I think that is going to wrap it up for me for now. Be sure to stay tuned because you never know what direction this odd flock of ours is heading into. And until next time, toodaloo.